These are the modal verbs. Please follow the path if you want to create a strong obligation. You need to reach to the end. But if you simply want to give an ability, a permission, or an advice, you don't need to go that far. I will guide you now through a path with more than 10 steps. Can is expressing an ability. For example, if I say Jim swims every week, then I say that he does this regularly. But if I say Jim can't swim, then I express his ability to do the action. Could expresses a past ability. For example, Jim could swim when he was 5 years old. And he did that really fast when he was 5. Or I could say, Jim, if he would like to, he could swim to the rocky cliffs. That's a possibility. May and might. We use may to give or ask a permission. For example, is it okay for me? Is it safe for me? May I swim here? Might is more a probability. It might rain today. It's probable. Shall we go? It's more like an invitation, right? You should wear your hat. There is a lot of sun today, so you give a strong advice. You're not telling the person that it's absolutely an obligation, but it's an advice. And ought to is a bit more formal. You need to add the preposition to. Don't forget, only with ought to, not with should. I will indicates something that you're going to do, you promise to do, that a spontaneous intention. And you can also abbreviate it and say I'll. Okay, so it's more like a prediction. Would indicates a conditional. So she would swim if, and then you give the condition, for example, about the weather or the other conditions that must be completed before this action can go through. You can abbreviate it, and then the pronunciation becomes she'd swim. Technically speaking, needs to is not a real modal verb. You can notice that because it gets an S in the third person singular in the present tense. But we can include it here because you use it in this context. So it's a necessity without being a real obligation. For an obligation, you can use either must or have to. Mind though that must doesn't have a past nor a real future. And must is more to give orders or for written notices and a strong advice, even to ourselves. Have to is when the obligation doesn't come from the speaker.